What's up, you guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Fit Women's Weekly Podcast. I am so excited for this episode because I knew that the moment that Emily and I started chit-chatting that we would hit it off. And sure enough, it did not disappoint, and now I can't wait to share our conversation with you guys. We are going to talk about exercise addiction. We're going to talk about her not only going after, but spoiler, accomplishing the world record for the most amount of half marathons consecutively done day after day after day. And then we're also going to talk about previous fitness goals, current fitness goals, goals that we have in the future, focused on mindset and business and strength and all the topics. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into this episode. And if you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed doing this, comment, let me know. And also, if you have questions or topics that you would like to see in future episodes, let me know that too. And of course, support the podcast by sharing with your friends and family this episode. You can share it on your social media accounts. If you do, please feel free to tag me, Kendall Boyle Fitness. And now let's jump right on in. So we're already recording because I knew just from our emails that I was like, oh, we can have some stuff to chit chat about.
Oh,
and
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So first off, what's up? Welcome to the podcast. I'm going to do the intro and everything separate so we can really just kind of jump right into things.
Okay, perfect.
But when I started reading, I'm full disclosure, I have not made it all the way through your book yet, but congratulations on the book. So far, it's awesome.
Thank
But
you.
You and I are sisters that have been separated. When I was reading, with your freshman year weight gain and then your eating disorder, I was the exact same timeline. Sophomore year, eating disorder, the opposite, like anorexic, obsessed with exercise. My exercise obsession is still something I battle 20 years later, but I feel like you can absolutely relate to that. While I have not run 74 half marathons back to back, I do love the half marathon distance. But what really made me giggle is, so in the start of your book, you really focus on mindset, which I love. And especially since this is the beginning of the year, I really want us to talk about on this show. But I kid you not, this is what I'm reading right now.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So you guys that are listening on the podcast, she talks about a book called Mindset, The New Philosophy of Success, where it talks about fixed mindset, open mindset by Carol Dweck. And Dan and I are currently in the middle of reading this book. So Emily, you and I, same page. And I've actually read it before, but we are like, we need we always get down on ourselves from time to time. And we're like, we need a change of mindset.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's good to have that malleability.
Exactly. So welcome to the show, Emily. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, I mean, I kind of just spit out a ton of stuff, but we'll start with the world record stuff. How did you get the drive to be like, I'm going to run a freaking half marathon every day just for the hell of it?
Thanks for having me on the show, by the way. Yeah, so it feels like forever ago. The half marathon challenge, it took place in 2017, so it's been a minute. But basically, I was kind of going through like a bit of a rough time in my life. I had just kind of jumped into self-employment, and I was kind of having a hard time navigating that.
I feel like anytime you get into self-employment, people are like, at least when I was a kid, when you learned of people that own their own business, you're like, oh my God, you must be rich. Like it feels like it's something that comes so easily. And then once you actually get into being self-employed, you're like, oh, this is really hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I had been craving all this time, like extra time that I would have. And I'd be like, oh, I have so much time to do all these things. But then when I had this abundance of time, I just kind of squandered it and didn't know what to do. It was just like literally the Wild West. So yeah, I had a really tough time that year and just kind of.
What kind of business were you starting at that time?
So it's kind of random, but it was a hockey equipment business.
Okay.
So basically, my co-founder and I came up with like a patented design for a base layer product, or a piece of base layer apparel, sorry, for hockey players and goalies, that help players get dressed faster and also added extra protection. So we kind of just jumped into that, but it was just very precarious from an income generating perspective. So I was also freelancing, doing some freelance work in digital marketing at the same time to kind of offset the volatility in my income. But anyways, yeah, so that year was really tough. I was just kind of like a mess of a human, and I had like my first series of panic attacks, and then I had like a full kind of mental breakdown at the end of the year. And I decided to kind of set another, like, a personal challenge for myself to try to get myself away from identifying so heavily with the startup, because it was a struggle. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of made the mistake of tying my identity to it. So when it wasn't doing well, I felt like I was a failure, and had a lot of self deprecating language. But so in January of that year, I set a goal to run 10K per day. Um, I listened to this book called The Happiness of Pursuit by Chris
Mm-hmm.
Gillibo. And the premise of the book is on questing and setting these big challenges or lifelong quests. And there's so many different types, but I was just kind of, and to refrain from giving you the full synopsis, um, I was just kind of inspired, and I wanted to create like my own mini challenge. So I did the 10K per day challenge. At the same time, I wanted to um, write a blog post every day on my experience and do like a social post. So after that challenge was over, I felt really, really good. And a few months went by, and I wanted to kind of set something a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just was out for a run one day. I think I was listening to Mel Robbins' 5 Second Rule.
Yeah.
Have you read that book?
Yeah, I had a long, long, long time ago, but yeah,
Yeah, it
absolutely.
was so long ago. But for some reason, when I was listening to that book, I just came up with the idea to do something bigger. And then I got home and I started researching world records, and I don't remember exactly why I chose the half marathon distance, but I had set a goal. The current record was 61 days for a cisgender woman, consecutive days running that distance. So I set a goal to do 70, and then just jumped into it. And I think it was to try to kind of create more meaning and purpose in my life, aside from just my career.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
sometimes when you're feeling like things aren't going your way, and like you said, you had a self-deprecation going on and you're really putting yourself down, to find strength in other areas helps bring strength into those areas that don't feel so strong at the moment.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I started that, and at the same time I wanted to make it like a little bit more meaningful. So I set a goal to raise $10,000 for the Canadian Cancer Society uh, as well. So yeah, that's kind of how it started.
And of course people are going to like, I don't know about you, but I get questions after questions of how do you stay motivated, how do you stay motivated? And obviously when you're doing something like that, the only way to really stay motivated is to be like, well, I have my goal at the end, and of course your monetary goal as well. But on those days where you're like, I don't want to do this, how did you find the strength to keep going?
I just didn't give myself the option.
Yeah.
I was like, I
Are
have to
you a
do it.
morning runner?
I am a morning runner,
Yeah,
yes.
I feel like I am as well. Like
You
I
are
have to
too?
wait, right? Yeah, at like 5:30 a.m. because your brain
Okay.
isn't awake yet to tell you, what are you doing? Go back to bed. Like it's just get up and go.
Okay, that's very admirable. I've tried doing that, and my workouts are so terrible. I need like I have a process in the morning before I start my workout, because I need to have like my brain awake, and
Mhm.
I need a few hours usually to get myself going and
And
ramped
I'm the
up. But
opposite. My brain can't be
good
awake.
on you.
It's just animal instinct, just go.
That's great. Do you like sleep with your sports bra on the night before?
Sometimes if I wasn't married, I would do it every night for sure. And sometimes I think about that and I'm like, if I go to bed with my running leggings on, he's going to think that I'm insane. So that only happens when it's really cold outside, because then I can just get away of like, I'm trying to stay warm.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I mean, even after like 18 years of being with my husband, I'm still like, I don't want to be too weird.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Quirky, I would say.
Exactly. But I do have all of my clothes like laid out at the bottom of the toilet so that when you wake up and you have that first pee, I'm putting my leggings on while I'm going to the bathroom. Absolutely.
That's genius. I have kind of a variation of that. I lay out my gym clothes, but it's on a stool. So right
Okay.
now it's like we're on the stool, and I get up, I push my coffee, and then I put my gym clothes on right away, and then I sit for like a bit. But
Right.
yeah, it's like it's good to make it as easy as possible, like as less.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, So
And I am
smart.
100% honest with all of my readers. Like I don't really hold back on anything. So I sleep mostly naked, like with just underwear on. So in the morning, if I'm sitting on the toilet, like I got to put clothes on. So I
Yeah,
might as well put my running clothes on.
for sure. It's all about efficiency.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, running back to back to back, did you have to deal with issues like chafing, or how did you deal with fueling your body to make sure that you didn't drop too much weight, that you were able to have the energy to sustain yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So I did have at the beginning of the challenge, I kind of dealt with some really weird issues. I had pain under my foot. I was dealing with some knee issues, but I think the 10K per day challenge kind of prepared me for that because
Mhm.
my body was going through like a process of adaptability almost, like it was adapting to the distance. So I was expecting, some kind of soreness, but it was just really random. But after I think like yeah, the first 2-3 weeks, it really started. I didn't have like as many physical issues. I also did some foam rolling and a lot of stretching, which anyone
Yeah.
that knows me knows that like I don't stretch ever. So for me,
As you get older, it is very important.
I know. Thank you. I need the reminder always.
I do too.
um, And then in terms of nutrition, so I actually had a lot of fun with nutrition because I used it kind of as a way to experiment. I didn't really stick with one set thing. I found some mornings wasn't really hungry at all. So I had a really hard time eating, especially as the challenge progressed for some reason. Before I would have, I don't know, maybe some oats and protein powder and like nuts and banana, but sometimes my stomach wasn't able to handle that. I think it was midway through the challenge, and I'm trying to remember because again, it was so long ago,
Sure.
but I made these energy balls with like almond butter and just a whole bunch of calorie dense stuff, and I would like roll them into little balls and freeze them. So I'd pop a few of those and right before my run, and those usually did the trick. And if I was starving en route, I would stop and get a banana or something. But yeah,
And for the most part, I mean, I feel like you really get used to it. People gawk at me, and again, not that I've undertaken something like what you do, but I do run regularly, and I've run regularly since I was 19. And like this morning, I went out and ran 10 miles, and I don't need anything before, I don't need anything during. I don't feel fatigued. Like that's just what I'm used to at this point in my life.
okay. Do you do fasted workouts usually?
Yeah, not intentionally. It's just
Yeah,
again, I wake up at 5:30 a.m. and I just hit the ground running.
makes sense. Yeah, I'm the same. If I wake up and work out within an hour, usually is my rule of thumb. I do it fasted because I'm not
Exactly.
hungry. But if it's since I work out like pretty, I don't know, like 2-3 hours after I wake up, I usually have like a snack.
Yeah. And if that were the case, I would absolutely have some sort of snack.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I love, even, and in your book, you talk about this too, how self experimentation is key. And I feel like so many times people are looking for the answer, like the one thing. What are you doing that I need to be doing? Or
Yeah,
this is right, this is wrong.
for
When
sure.
some of this can be right, some of this can be wrong. And you really don't know until you figure it out and play with it for yourself, because we are so individual that it's okay to mess around and experiment.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what I want to know, so 61 was the record.
Mhm.
You originally set the goal for 70. You ended up going 74. What, I feel like it was like a Forrest Gump moment where you just kind of get there and you're like, I'm done. Like what made 74 be like, okay, that's enough.
That's exactly what happened. I, so at 74, like okay, so the half marathon challenge was like a big time consuming thing. Like every day, just with yeah, like the eating and the just like the running and then the writing the blog posts and the social posts. It was just like half my day. So after I hit 70, I didn't hit my financial goal. I was I think like $500 off. So I was like, oh, I'll just keep going until I hit my financial goal. Hit it on day 71. And then I was contemplating, I was like, oh, I can still keep going. Like my body felt fine to keep going. So I was like, oh, maybe I should just do like a nice round number, like 80 or 100. But it was day 74 where I had a really busy day with work. And it was coming into August. So that's I guess the beginning of hockey season when hockey gets like really ramped up. Like the business was like super seasonal, like August to December is when it's like crazy busy. So I was starting to get really, really busy with work, and I just was like, I don't have time to do this, and I need to. And I also didn't have time to see friends and family, and it was a sacrifice. So I just kind of decided that I didn't want to keep sacrificing anymore. The timing of the challenge was good because it started in May, and that's like there's no hockey sales pretty much from May to
Yeah.
July. So I had so much time on my hands, but that's I'd say the main reason.
Mhm. And did you feel super successful when, like, did you get out of it the feelings? And we'll talk about this too, and explain for those listening, like, what is intrinsic versus extrinsic? How did you feel when it was over? Did you feel accomplished like you had expected to?
Honestly, no. I felt sad.
Really?
Yeah, I felt lost. Um, and I always tell people this, the hardest part of the challenge was not like running it, it was ending it because yeah, I was busy, but with like work stuff, but it brought so much meaning and purpose and intrinsic motivation. I guess like that's sorry, I need to reword. I guess like that it just it just gave me a lot more meaning in my day.
Mhm.
So when I ended it, it was I don't know, I just kind of was left with a little bit of a void, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's anytime we get ourselves pumped up for something and we expect like fireworks are going to be over and we're going to be a whole new changed person. And then when that event comes, whether it's a race or something like you're doing or a holiday, it's like, oh, that's it. And then you wake up the next morning and you're the same person. And
Yeah,
some, like, yes, of course you've learned things, but at the same time, we want this like grand finale. And when it doesn't happen, we're kind of left with like, oh, now what?
yeah, exactly. It was this now what? And then I was just trying to like figure out, okay, what's next? Like this challenge, this race, and I still struggle with that to this
Mhm.
day with like any sort of like big accomplishment. I just kind of get sad about it because I like the process so much more, and
Mhm.
like working towards something. So yeah, it was a bit of a surprising feel, and I had it's similar to like a post race come down, like or post race blues. It's like literally a thing where yeah, you get kind of like symptoms of depression sometimes after a race because you're just devoting so much time and energy to like one specific goal, and then it feels great. You feel that euphoric high after you get your medal or you accomplish it, and but that like for a couple days, but then it just like fades, and then exactly what you had said, you're just like now what do
What's
I
the
do?
purpose of my training? What am I like?
Yeah,
Even though you were busy with work, you're still used to giving half of your day to this project that was now over.
yeah, yeah,
And same
exactly.
thing with someone training for like their first marathon. They train for 12 to 18 weeks or whatever the case may be to run 26 miles, which is over in, I don't know, 3 to 6 hours, depending on where you are. And then you're like, wow, I just spent months and months. And just like that, by lunchtime, it's done.
Yeah, no, exactly. So
So
it's
then
like,
what do you recommend to somebody that has those, or how did you come back from it with another challenge, or rethinking the way that you look at the way that you move your body?
yeah. So after I finished the half marathon challenge, I wanted to do kind of another project, and basically I launched like a 30-day running challenge on my website to help kind of share what I learned during the challenge to help other people develop a habit with running specifically,
Mhm.
if they wanted to, which I found
Is that
meaningful.
your therapy, running versus other types of fitness?
Yeah, I would say running is my thing. I do like lifting weights too. I find that also cathartic, but running for sure is like my time.
Your therapy? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you as well?
Yes, I don't run anymore I don't get mad at myself anymore for what my mile times are
Oh,
or
good.
how many miles I'm running that day. For me, it's like I give so much as a in my job to everybody else. And I work so hard to be the best wife and the best owner and the best trainer. And so I actually teach multiple classes live each day. So I end up working out sometimes 3 to 4 times a day. And people have told me like, back off of your running. And I'm like, this is the one thing that I do for myself. It's not filmed. I'm not sharing it on social media. I'm not testing a
Yeah.
program for somebody. This is solely for me. And I refuse to give that up.
Yeah, no, good. Good for you. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And 4 times a day. Wow, that's that's really impressive.
No, trust me. We'll see when I'm 50 how my body moves.
Yeah, I worry about that too. Ever.
Yeah, but I'm impressed because you've talked about in your book that you don't take rest days. And that's something
Mhm.
obviously that's very frowned upon most of the time in the fitness industry. I cannot frown upon that because again, I'm working out 3 to 4 times a day. So
Yeah.
who am I to judge? I do believe in listening to your body, but how does that work for you?
Yeah. So the consecutive running thing, so there's definitely pros and cons. Absolutely. For me, I do think in terms of injuries, which I've sustained, I could have, I guess, expedited recovery if I took a rest day, but I usually just listen to my body and go slower. Like right now, I'm recovering from a chronic quad strain, so I've been inside on the treadmill running really slow, just trying to like let it heal. But yeah, for me, I just like you, running is my time, and it's not like I feel like I don't. It's not like I feel like running every day, but I always know I'll feel better, and uh,
Exactly.
yeah, and it's something that just grounds me. It like it is kind of like therapeutic for me, and it's just part of my everyday that I don't even really think about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't enjoying my running anymore, it just felt forced, and exactly what you had mentioned before, if I was chasing a pace constantly, which I have, or if it was just a focus on calories in versus calories out, I likely wouldn't have sustained it for this long.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I so that's kind of like the pros, I guess, and mixed with cons. But I guess the biggest con as well is just kind of this rigidity that I formed in my schedule because I have to run every day. Like if I'm traveling, it's a little bit challenging because I always have to plan for my runs and make sure I can run in a safe place or whatnot, or make sure that the hotel I'm at has a treadmill or yeah. And I've just kind of missed out on some life opportunities because of it. Not a ton, but some.
Right.
I've also put other people out because of it as well, so I feel a little bit selfish in that way.
I
But
love how honest that you're being, because some people could just be like, yeah, this is the way it is and I feel great. And I don't think it's often talked about enough of like, this is the reality of it. And sometimes I wish I could take more rest days or back out a little
yeah,
bit, but this is my life.
yeah, for sure. Like sometimes I do, and I'll admit too, it's not smart. Like I've run with pneumonia, and I did 100K in September, and I ran the next day, even though it went into the next day. Like,
So technically you had run that day.
yeah, and it did not feel good. Like it was, I
Yeah.
just felt really bad, and so those same type of things, I'm just like, Emily, what are you doing? But I don't know. It's just the streak is so long now that to miss a day, it has to be a really, really compelling reason.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What is the streak? Do you actually have like a number?
Yeah, so it's been 5.5 years now. Um,
Holy hell. Okay.
yeah, so actually after so after the half marathon challenge, I just like I didn't stop running after that. I didn't do half marathon distance every day, but after that I kind of settled on 10K per day on average, and then now I'm at about like 5 miles per day.
Mhm.
4 is my minimum that I set for myself,
Sure.
4K. Um, but yeah, I just kind of didn't stop.
Mhm.
It'll
Well,
be
I mean, good for you. That's pretty impressive. But at the same time, the world, what I do want to say as a trainer and
yeah,
as somebody like I'm saying this as like a big sister. The world's not going to fall apart if you take one day off,
it's
right?
very true.
Just
Yeah.
for, and I'm sure people have told you that before, so there's no point in me like ever saying that. But I have to remind myself that as well. And as I get older, I have gotten a little bit better about that, where if things aren't feeling right, I'm like, you know what, instead I'm going to put my ankle weights on and I'm going to go for a walk instead of a run. And I purposely put my ankle weights on because, like you, I have that same mentality where if I go out and just go, I'm like, I'm just going to go for a walk, it'll turn into a jog, even though I know my body is saying that's not what you need right now. But I know if
Yeah,
I have ankle weights on, I'm not going to go run 5 miles with ankle weights on, right? So to
that's
really,
so smart.
they're there to make sure that I hold myself accountable to taking that rest that you need from time to time.
I love that. That's a brilliant idea.
I figured you might can relate to that.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, and you're absolutely right. And two, like I had all this anxiety that something would happen, it would end, and if I did get injured, I would just literally get all consumed by it, and I wouldn't be able to concentrate because I'd be so worried that I would miss my streak or it would have to end.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of processing on that and journaling and reflecting and being okay when it does end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's similar to what I had mentioned before with the come down.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like processing that the ends is something that is actually like a real quest.
Right. No, I mean, I think that that's really cool. And part of the injury thing, I broke my leg about, I don't know, maybe like 4 years ago, and thought the same thing. We were supposed to go for a 2-week backpacking trip at Glacier National Park. And I broke my leg mountain or rock climbing right before we left. So yeah, it sucked. And same thing. I was like, now who am I? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to train people and keep up with all this stuff? Then you just kind of think, what can I do? And so for those 12 weeks that I was completely non-weight bearing and on crutches, my ass got real strong at pull-ups and real strong at push-ups. So
Yeah,
whenever you're like, I can't do this because of this, there's so many other things that you are capable of doing and switching things out.
no, exactly. And yeah, so I usually I supplement my workouts with like more creative challenges,
Mm-hmm.
intellectual challenges, or I'll work on like more strength stuff and mobility, which I'm terrible at.
You and me both.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think there's like opportunity in any sort of injury to derive some other benefit. Even though at the time it's just like, oh,
Yeah,
this sucks so
exactly.
bad. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
definitely been there too, where I'm just very apathetic and
No, you
miserable.
talk about the mental challenges and stuff too, and you post that you read a lot. Your
Mhm.
reading collection is quite extensive. It's not as if you're reading Twilight. I was trying to look at some of them.
Twilight.
That's dating me, but I was looking at some of them like, okay, these are real like deep books. And some of them I have read because I mean, obviously I'm absolutely in with mindset books. But
Mm.
what is your favorite book that you've read in the past couple of months?
Oh, that's such a hard one.
I
So
did see, I think I looked at one of your old ones that you had posted, Count of Monte Cristo, and that is one of my all-time favorite
oh,
books.
yeah, same. Yeah,
You
for fiction, that was I think that one and Frankenstein are my two favorite, hands
know, I don't
down.
know if I've actually ever read Frankenstein.
It's so good. I didn't think it would be that great, but when I read it, I read it twice in a row. Like I read it and then I was like, this is so good, I have to reread it. It's
I should.
incredible.
I should
Yeah.
because biographies and autobiographies are like my favorite genre. And I feel like that would be more of like a biography book, right? Because it's more about Dr. Frankenstein than the actual monster.
I think well, it kind
Or
of
maybe
takes
I
on
should.
like the it's both. It's
Okay.
both. But you really feel for the monster.
That's what
Like
I've heard.
very sad for the monster.
Oh man, okay. I'll put
Like,
that one on
like
my list for
Becky.
sure. I mean,
Yeah.
he was created. You should feel empathetic and sad for him.
Yeah. Frankenstein was mean. He was a jerk.
That's too funny.
But yeah, I would say for fiction, those are my favorite. It's really, I literally cannot pick one book, but I can give you like some authors that I really like. Like
Yeah.
in terms of philosophy, I'm obsessed with Plato. I love Nietzsche, and I'm just getting into Schopenhauer. I'm just finishing up his body of work, which I really, really love as well. I've read a lot of really good books on anti-racism this
Mhm.
year, the past like 12 months, like Do Better by Rachel Ricketts. White Supremacy, Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings. Those are all fantastic. And I just finished The Good Ally by Nova Reed.
I've heard of
So
that.
those are
Yeah.
yeah, those are all really, really good. Um,
I just
but
want to like reading Plato. I was always something that I feel like somebody going to get their PhD would read. Like, so, wow.
it's like, so I think it depends on the translation, but if you read
Uh-huh.
the introduction and do like what I do with philosophy is I listen to a lot of podcasts and
Yeah.
kind of take a little bit more of an academic approach to it. But if you read the translator's introduction, it gives you kind of like the synopsis and overview.
Mhm.
Um, and they're really entertaining, I find,
Okay.
and just there's some really interesting ideas. But yeah, it's like I had to have a lot of self-compassion when I started reading philosophy because like a lot of it I didn't really understand right away, but
Mhm.
it's really I find rewarding to start developing a base and seeing connections and reading more modern philosophers and seeing a lot of references to antiquity which you now know about because you have that base. So yeah,
Wow.
I don't like, I'm definitely not an academic type of person, but I think there's like a lot of resources out there that can make philosophy more accessible.
Mhm.
And I
Well, and
always
just like we always say, like with self-experimentation, you should never stop learning. And so whatever
exactly.
field that is, I mean, I'm reading the most boring book called The Ultimate Desktop Copywriting Book. I mean, it's
Oh,
not exciting at all, but I always want to be learning new things and getting better at
yeah.
the stuff and vice versa. So if philosophy is something that excites you, it's like, who cares what you studied in college? Learn about it now.
Yeah, exactly. It's very interesting, and I talk about this in my book too, how with as it applies to fitness, but like all our interests, is as we get older, some new interests will emerge, and others aren't like you're not too keen on anymore. It's fascinating.
Right.
But just to kind of switch to you, what's your favorite book over the last year or a little
Oh my
bit?
goodness. Out of the last year, I can't think of over the last year. I mean, my all-time favorite book is um Abraham Lincoln's biography with Malice.
Oh, I haven't
It's
read that.
amazing. Oh,
Okay.
so good. I mean, I've told my husband if we ever have a child, it will be named Lincoln because this book is like it transformed me. And then
Oh
I
wow.
love Stephen King's 11/22/63 or whatever. Did you ever read this one?
No.
It is not scary. It's not a typical Stephen King. It's about time travel and again, I love historical fiction, historical nonfiction, and it's about the Kennedy assassination and trying to change the Kennedy assassination around. It's really, really, you kind of forget that you're reading a fiction book. You get really, really pulled into it, but that's one of my favorites for sure. And then I just finished reading, which was just a totally fun book, The Other Woman, not too long ago. Oh, and I love World War II books.
Okay.
So
You're a big
fly,
history fan.
you're a mystery fan
Oh, sorry, history fan?
of history.
History fan.
Yeah, history.
Mhm.
And so Fly Boys was really, really good.
Okay, I haven't heard of any of those books. I'll have to
Yeah, we'll
look.
have to give each other a list
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
for sure. Now going back, you did bring up your book, and I know that that's like the big thing going on for you. Well, actually, that and the fact that you started a digital marketing company today. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You got a lot of stuff going on. But what inspired you to write a book called, for those of you guys listening, if you haven't seen it yet, Find Your Stride?
Yeah, so I think I've been blogging since 2017. I started blogging about running, and then I kind of moved into more like deep dive fitness articles, like science backed. So I've been doing it for a while, and I just felt like I always wanted to write a book, and I thought that was kind of like the next logical step. I I didn't know what the premise was originally when I first started writing it. I had a few articles on, I'm not sure if you've heard of medium.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wrote a few fitness articles there that did really, really well. And a lot of my articles start with a disclaimer where it's like, this works for me. If I talk about anything, any sort of science and how it relates to me, I'm like, this is like the lens. I'm like a cisgender white able-bodied woman, and just because it worked for me doesn't mean it will work for you. So it's funny because that disclaimer kind of just been like the main thesis of the book.
Hey, I am actually experimenting with the carnivore diet. So every single time I talk about it, I have to go, I'm not recommending this to you. This
Yeah.
is what's working for me.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I wanted to write a book because when I first started my fitness journey in university, I was kind of harboring this all or nothing attitude. I was only focused on weight loss. Um, I made my diet and training so restrictive, and it was just like it basically became a prison.
Mhm.
And I had wished I had known the information that I know now at the beginning. Because if I did have that information, I wouldn't have gone through this, like, I guess, hell pretty much
Right.
when I was younger. And it was, yeah, like I said, I still struggle with some things to this day. So I wanted to provide the most up to date scientific information when it comes to fat loss, building muscle, but also adding a big disclaimer that just because the science says this doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. So it was really pushing that experimentation mindset, what I call in the book, the explorer mindset, where you kind of position any sort of new fitness information or like nutrition training as an experiment, a self experiment, and you act as a scientist. So yeah, it's not like if it didn't work for me, I'm a failure.
Mhm.
It's more so like, oh, this isn't a great fit for me. I'm gonna revise and try something different. And it's
Right.
like having more fun with it, I guess, and keeping it lighter because self-compassion is like a big thing I think that I've struggled with. And if I didn't miss a workout or I like slipped up on my eating, I would just like chastise myself.
Yeah, it's that fixed mindset of like, I suck, I can't do this.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Reminding
everybody feels that way, and especially right now where everyone has set these goals for 2023 and then they have one crappy day and go, see, I knew I couldn't do this. Why did I even try?
Yeah, no, exactly. So that was one thing, but also to try to share a mindset in terms of how to approach fitness information because there's a lot of stuff out there that is really not good and very dogmatic, and it's how to kind of take that information and not I guess accept it as like a truth, like a universal truth, but
Right.
again, like to realize that it's very flawed. Even like I use some examples too. Like there was one study, multiple studies that show that like women operate in like just regular training off a higher fat diet typically, but I'm
Mhm.
like, not me. I'm like high carb.
Yeah.
Even when I'm not like running, just in general, like I operate better with high carb. So there's like a whole bunch of instances where I saw science said this one thing, but when I experimented it on myself, it was very not true for me. So that's kind of what I wanted to share with other people. And even though the book does give you quite a bit of information on fat loss and aesthetics and building muscle, I try to warn people as well that that should not be the emphasis in terms of sustainability.
Mhm.
And as we were saying before, it comes from an intrinsic place. So try to share
Well, let's
some.
talk about that. At the like just a few minutes ago, you said how when you first started your fitness journey, it was all focused on weight loss, weight loss, weight loss,
Yeah.
weight loss. And obviously, we all know that when you don't see weight loss at the speed that you want, because no one ever does,
Mhm.
you give up, and that's what your motivation plummets, and you just walk away. So, how can you change your mindset and change the focus of what you are trying to change your motivation, basically? What should people be focusing on instead of the scale, the scale, the scale?
Yeah, there's a lot of things there. So I think I don't think we're ever going to be completely devoid of extrinsic motivation
Mhm.
or focusing on aesthetics because and especially like at least for me when I first started I did see because I was so restrictive and so consistent and extreme, but that's just like my personality. I'm kind of like an all or nothing type of person. I did see a lot of changes, but then I stopped seeing changes, and then I just like was just like it just felt harder and harder to get me to go to the gym. But at the same time, I had developed this interest in running, and I saw myself improving in running. And again, it was extrinsic. So I was focusing on just like getting faster and faster times. So when I stopped hitting my weight loss goal, I kind of switched that over to getting faster running times and then like faster running distances. So it was like one extrinsic frame to the other. While I did still like I was like intrinsically motivated as well, the emphasis was certainly on extrinsic. So
And I think that's a good way to get started, right? Because everybody has to have that like why reason, and we're all going to have that reason of like whether it's a race or a weight loss goal or whatever the case may be. At least it gets you started, but that's not going to help keep you going.
Exactly. Yeah. Like extrinsic is very ephemeral. And I mean, everyone differs in how long it will sustain. But I think like over the long haul, if you want to have fitness, you know, in your life, it needs to come from an intrinsic place. So one thing I talk about is it's like literally the most famous theory on motivation is self-determination theory. And it's broken down into autonomy, relatedness, and competency. And those are like kind of the three facets in order to kind of harbor that intrinsic motivation. So autonomy is having control over your own decisions. Relatedness is being able to, you know, have form like a community or some sort of like common interest or hobby. And then, oh my God, I just literally just forgot. A competency is just getting better at something and developing skill.
So kind of like with autonomy, if someone tells you, if your doctor is like, you should be doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
At the heart of it, we're still toddlers, and we're like, or at least me, I have a rebel personality. Like I've taken personality tests that say that's what it is. So if you were to tell me, Kendall, you have to go run 5 miles every day, I'm going to say, F you. Yeah. I'm not, simply because even if I want to, but because you told me to, I don't want to do it.
No, exactly. So, and Michelle Segar from, she wrote this book called No Sweat. Have you read that book?
Yes, I think I actually have it in my bookcase. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like a fantastic book. And she talks about that a lot, is changing it to like from a chore to a gift. And if someone is telling you you should be doing this or you have to do this, it becomes a chore. But if you're like, I can do this, like I can, I choose to do this for myself, it becomes a gift. So it's like a form of framing that is really, really powerful.
Absolutely. I learned that. I was at the grocery store of all places one day, and this person was in front of me checking out. And the lady that was working at the register was like, hey, sir, how are you? And he's like, oh, I'm okay. I have to go to work today. And she looked at him. I don't know if she had read the book or whatever, but she looked at him and goes, well, there's a lot of people that don't have that option right now. So you should really look at it as you get to go to work. And that lady saying that at Publix, which is our grocery store here, 10 years ago has stuck with me to this day. And so every time I think of things like that, I'm like, I get to do this.
Yeah.
Another example, when I was like growing up, my mom would see people running and be like, when those people look like they're having fun, then I'll start running. She's like, all runners look miserable. And that is stuck in my head. So anytime I'm running and I see somebody, I smile, because I'm like, I don't want someone to be put off and think that I'm miserable right now because I'm moving my body. I get to move my body. This is something I get to do, and it's fun.
Yeah, and it's just, I love when you're running and you're like, you can wave at someone and smile. Yeah. It just makes me so happy. It makes my run so much more enjoyable. So thank you for your service.
I'll say hey, and if people have dogs, I'm like, oh my God, it's a dog.
Same.
Yeah. And so then after autonomy, then you have community.
Yeah, community. Yeah, relatedness.
Yeah, it's just finding people that are into the same thing as you are.
Yeah. I think like if it's like whether it's a sports team or fitness classes, or for me, like just connecting with people on Instagram that are also runners and sharing that mutual interest really keeps me motivated. I've met a lot of friends. Well, not a lot, a few friends here in Vancouver, like 2.
A couple.
friends and
Hey,
buddies.
all you need are just a few people sprinkled into your life to make it better. You don't need a whole, you don't need
Yeah.
10,000 followers around you all the time.
Yeah, no, exactly. Quality over quantity. I met a few friends here that like I train with or I run with, and they become like really close, and we have that, common activity that we do together. So that in itself is like really motivating. Like my friend Sarah, we both were training for the same race, different distances in September, and we went to Whistler on this big training
Oh,
weekend,
cool.
and we just had the best time. And I've also just learned so much from her in terms of like trail running, which is still like very new to me.
I love
Um,
trail running.
yeah, me too. So yeah, that in itself is very motivating.
And then after that, it's get better.
Yeah, competency. So like, yeah, getting better, developing skills, developing like some sort of mastery or challenging yourself.
And I think that's the one that a lot of people forget. It's where they just kind of get into the rhythm of their routine. And then it just
Mhm.
becomes kind of boring, right?
Yeah,
And every once in a while, even for like us who love to run just to get out and run, it's still fun to sign up for those races from time to time to give a little bit more purpose or see what you're capable of doing
yeah,
to make things exciting again.
yeah, exactly.
I'm actually doing a 50K in March
Oh, no
for the same
way. Which
reasons
one?
that you, it's one here in Charleston. It's a small, it's called a wild and wacky. It's a 5K every hour on the hour for 10 hours.
Oh,
So
such an
yeah,
interesting
right.
concept.
It's interesting. So you
Huh.
run the same, it's a trail run and you just run the same 3 mile loop every single time. But I did it for
Okay.
the same purpose that you started your half marathon, where it's just like I've been so focused on my business and the craziness that has happened as owning a gym since 2020. And I just need something else.
Yeah,
So,
no, for sure. No, good
yeah.
for you. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying my husband keeps going like, is this really the right time? Because so much in our life has changed. And I'm like, yeah, I need this. I
Yeah.
need a challenge.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Have you run an ultra before?
I have. I did one 2 times in North Carolina. It's called Quest for the Crest. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
It's so the highest mountain we have here in the east is nothing compared to like what you guys have. But we do have the biggest mountain east of the Mississippi, isn't too far from us. And this particular race, you run up and down it about 3 times. So you end up covering about 26,000 feet of elevation.
Oh, wow.
It's insane. Absolutely insane. But yeah, that was a fun one.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I definitely did not finish the second time, but
Oh, that's just even attempting those, I think, is admirable.
yeah. How was your 100?
It was hard.
Yeah, I
Learning
bet.
for
And it was
sure.
in Whistler, you said?
Yeah, yeah. So I had done a couple 50Ks prior to that one because I heard it's like a pretty savage course. I think the elevation was like 6,000 meters total. So
Mhm.
it was also up and down three
Mhm.
mountains. It was up and down Blackcomb and then Whistler Mountain twice. So there wasn't like a whole lot of flat. I am still, like I said, very new to trail running. I'm not very strong at ascents or technical downhill running, but it was something that I like was training for over the summer quite a bit. And like I said, Sarah helped me
Yeah.
and my
Oh my
coaches
God,
as well.
downhill running is like a whole, like the whole time you're just don't trip on a route, don't trip on a route, don't trip on a route.
Yeah, I had this so during my training I had rolled my ankle multiple times in another
Yeah.
race as well, and I had this huge swollen ankle that I called Charles. So Charles was with me, but he wasn't like that bad when I was running. I got him taped. So my ankle held, thankfully. But yeah, it was a time. There was one part in particular that was really brutal. I think it was between aid station 3 and 4, it was like 20K, and it
Mhm.
was up Whistler Mountain for the first time, but it was so hot and I ran out of water and I was like really dehydrated. And then I got to the aid station 4, it was a 50K point, and I was just like chugging back water and then just like shoving my face with food, and like left the aid station 2 seconds later, like puked.
Oh
And I was like,
man.
oh man, okay. And then I was so sick, and then I started running, and in like another 5 minutes, I puked again, and it took me like a really, and I think it was like the elevation too, or the
Sure.
altitude. So yeah, that was brutal, and there was just some other parts that weren't the greatest either, like some
Oh
chafing
man.
issues. Which is, yeah, if you've ever read some of my race recaps on my blog, I don't hold back.
Uh-huh. Hey, I'm same.
So yeah, I had some interesting ass cheek chafing issues
I was
towards the
just talking about butt chafing today.
oh, very
That's where
uncomfortable.
I don't chafe in my boobs because I have no boobs. My thighs don't chafe, but my butt chafes.
Yeah, I get chafing everywhere.
But
It
I'm
doesn't
not gonna stick a
discriminate.
Dove like, I've heard like Suave deodorant or something like that is really good, but I'm not
Yeah.
gonna like deodorant my butt cheeks.
Yeah, no, I use this thing that actually people on Instagram told me about, kept recommending. It's called Squirrel's Nut Butter, and
Okay.
it is the best thing ever. Like I didn't even know like what I was missing out. I used to KT, you know, KT tape.
Yeah, of course.
I used to KT tape my like boobs and my nipples, and
Oh
like
my word.
it didn't like really help down south, but on the top half it actually did the trick. So when I found this, like I was very apprehensive because I've tried like other brands and it's never worked.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that one worked really well. So now that's all I use, and it's a game changer.
All
If
right.
you're comfortable with lathering that on, I mean,
Hey, if it allows you to have a shower afterwards without going like, oh my God.
yeah. Oh, the most painful thing. I swear, my neighbors probably think I'm like, getting murdered
That is
when I
super.
shower.
You're like,
So
oh my
painful.
God, the bird.
Yeah,
And you're doing like just trying to get your head under.
yeah, yeah. So relatable.
That's
So
so
terrible.
funny.
Yeah.
Are you, when you're doing the long distance stuff, whether it's roads or trails, do you do fueling with like candy and typical sports gels, or are you doing full like real nutrition?
Yeah, for the ultras, like a combination of both. Like it
Hmm.
depends on the distance. I like to have like when I'm doing like the actual race, I try to kind of stick to more hard foods or like real foods at aid
Hmm.
stations, and then I'll usually have like gels, or I use this trail butter now, which is like a really nice change up from the gels.
Hmm.
I think the brand's called Spring, but I've been using their gels, which is like it's like more natural foods, and it doesn't make me like feel like really icky and sick from
Hmm.
like too many gels. But yeah, it's like a combination.
Yeah. I do
What about you?
mostly real. Like when I'm doing trail runs and stuff, I love like salty pretzels, and I can
Oh
just,
yeah.
stick them in the side of your cheek or something where you can kind of like, I know it gets kind of mushy and gross, but I like that, or dates. Um, those are pretty much my two typicals. And then I also do always put some Swedish fish in my sports bra.
Okay,
Like,
nice.
I get
That's
excited for
why I
Swedish
have it
fish.
there.
Yeah,
A little
just pull it
sweet, a little
out.
salty.
A little sweet, little salty. It's perfect.
I like your style.
Yeah. And then my husband does almonds, and he loves doing almonds when he's trail running.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we're doing that 50K together, and he's like a mountain goat, so he's already up ahead of me. And all of a sudden, I look on the ground, and there's a pile of almonds, as if like a squirrel had just been like, "Oh, this is a good place to keep all of my food." And I thought, huh, isn't that funny? If that was like Dan, and he for some reason dropped those or something, it just kind of made me smile. And then at the end, I was like, you're not going to believe I was running and I saw this huge pile of almonds. And he goes, man, those dropped out of my bag and I couldn't find them. I was like, I saw them.
Love to trail. That's so
Exactly. So funny. Oh man, I know that I'm holding you up, but I knew that you and I could talk a lot, and we've covered quite a lot of stuff. But I do want to put out there, like, again, funny, you do digital marketing, because my husband and I also do freelance digital marketing.
oh no way.
Yeah, but I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about you. Congratulations, because you just started your brand new company, is it Rudow? Is that how you say your last name?
Yeah, yeah, Rudo,
Okay.
yeah.
Rudow and Star Digital
Yeah,
Marketing?
yeah. So I've been
Yeah.
doing it like for I guess it's been like 7 years now. So I
Uh-huh.
wanted to make it a little bit more legitimate by having a website basically, and yeah, working with a colleague of mine as well. But yeah.
Good for you. So now what's next? You got multiple businesses, multiple things going on. What's your next fitness journey or business journey? Because you sound like a person that likes to have like goals lined up, challenges
Yeah,
for
I do.
yourself.
Yeah, I think you're similar too.
Yeah.
I get the sense. Yeah, so I kind of have like a little bit of a rhythm during my off season, which is the winter. In terms of like races, I like to work on more like creative projects. So I'm working on my second book right now.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and then next year I have 3 races on the calendar. So I have like a 25K trail race in February called Run Ridge Run,
Mhm.
and then a 50K in April called Dias Vistas, and then doing the Fat Dog 120 mile, which is in BC as well in August. Sorry, going to attempt the 120
You
mile.
can do it. You can do it. Will
I'm
that be your
gonna go
first? Will
back.
that be your longest?
Yeah, I've done it 100 mile in 2019, but this will be my longest and probably the hardest too because it's mountainous. But I have like really great coaches and
Mhm.
support network to help me because I definitely can't do it
Dang.
alone.
My husband wants to do 100 miler and I have zero desire to believe it or not. And I'm just like, I will have your aid stations. I will have new socks for you,
Aw.
but good for you.
Oh, thank you. It's a very transformative experience.
I can only freaking imagine. You need to sign up to do what's the one? I'm sure, even though you're in Canada, I'm sure you've heard of this one. The one in is it Tennessee where you have to rip the book and it's like 6 laps around? I know people are listening, yelling at me what it's called. I want to say Johnson 100, but it's not.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, it starts with B. Burns. I don't know. I have to send it to you because that
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
right up your alley. It's like
yeah.
only one person per year maybe actually finishes it.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, it's and sometimes there's been random years where like 2 or 3 people have finished it, but some years they have 0 people finish it.
Okay. Yeah, sounds pretty brutal. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm giving it to you to do because I'm not doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh.
Oh, it's driving me crazy. I can't think of the name, but every year we watch the videos of it and all the updates. But that's funny.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
I'm sure I've heard of it before if it's that savage, but
yeah, it's crazy. Well, listen, Emily, so it's been awesome talking to you. I could honestly sit here and just talk to you like girlfriend chit chat
yeah,
forever.
same.
Yeah. So where can people go to get your books, learn more about you, follow you, all the stuff?
Yeah, so they can follow me on Instagram or connect with me. I love just like chatting with people about fitness, running, like anything, reading. My Instagram handle is at Emily Rudow. And then you can get my book. It's available anywhere online or anywhere books are sold online only. But you can get it off Amazon, or I always recommend as well calling your independent local bookstore and getting them written would be the
Yeah.
preferred method. And yeah, my personal blog is emilyrudo.com. So any of those ways.
Awesome. Is the new book going to be way different than the current book? Like total, is it still fitness related, running related, or a completely different genre?
Yeah, it's a completely different genre.
Philosophy?
There's some philosophy in there for sure.
Yeah.
Psychology. Yeah, it's still very much fine tuning the main ideas, but it is, and there is some fitness in it, but it's not a fitness focused book at all. Trying to do something a little bit different because I've been writing about fitness for a really long time now. So
Well, good for you. Congratulations. And then my last question, just because I'm nosy, do you still do the hockey business as well?
yeah, yeah, I
Okay,
do.
you still have that too.
Yeah, we still have it, but we're going to be closing it down end of March this year because it's been a long haul, and I think we're both my business partner. She started a new business, and we're just kind of ready to move on to something else.
Mhm. Well, good for you guys. That's awesome.
Thank you so
So you're gonna
much.
wait till the end of the season, basically, and then close it down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I wish I could say I knew anything about hockey, but I don't.
Yeah. Fair.
I've been on ice skates like twice.
Yeah, it's a very Canadian business.
Yeah. No, in all fairness, my husband did actually play hockey in high school, and he's from
Okay,
the States.
cool.
So yeah,
Yeah,
he's
well,
always trying to get me into it.
yeah. Yeah, actually, like our customer base is mostly in the U.S. To
Oh,
be honest.
really? That's
Yeah,
funny.
like a Canadian sport, but also actually people in the US are going to hate me for that. So I take that back.
No, we
Um,
all are quite aware it's a Canadian sport.
okay, okay. But yeah, most of our customers are in the US. So
Oh, that's funny. Well, congratulations. And if you ever need help with anything or questions, I'd love to just stay connected. And if you don't mind, send some of your favorite book recommendations.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. And you too.
Thank you so much. All right, lady,
Thank
I'll talk to
you.
you soon. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
sounds good.
Bye.